And a good summer Thursday football morning. Appreciate you streaming in bright and early with the boys of Birds 365. That would be Mac and Mac, John McMullen, and Jody McDonald. Got a good one planned for you today. Two good guests, one local Philly guy, one very well-respected national NFL writer. Stay right where you're at for the next couple hours. We'll fill in a whole bunch of blanks for you. Johnny Mac, where we're starting today is where I should have started yesterday, and you had to go, hey, Jody, how about we get sorry about that. Meant to bring that up at the top of the show. We got off on a tangent. Not going to let that happen today. The McMullen Kratz Top 25 for the best football players on the Philadelphia Eagles. Everybody's got their lists, and everybody's list is slightly different depending on how you define it prior to starting it. You are into your top three, J-Mac. You have the top three yet to reveal, and if you've been following along on either Sports Illustrated or with us here on Birds 365, I'm guessing you can guess at who the top three are. But of the three very good Philadelphia Eagles remaining yet to be named, John McMullen, who's number three out of the top three?
A.J. Brown, which you kind of guessed, would be number three overall. And yeah, I mean, when the Eagles acquired him, I always say I knew he was good. You and I talked about it. I had him right on the cusp of being top 10. Yep. I knew he was good in Tennessee. I didn't know how good when he showed up here. And he took it to a different level in more of a explosive offense, let's be honest. So, and he was, you know, I say it all the time. He was the final piece of the puzzle on that out where everything kind of fit into place. I always go back to the one season where people forget the name Jordy Nelson, but he was an all-pro receiver. A lot of that had to do with Aaron Rodgers, but he had a 2-3 year span before he tore his ACL where he was really, really good. And when he did get hurt, all of a sudden everything trickled down from there. Randall Cobb at the time was a great slot receiver, great number two receiver, had to move up to being number one, wasn't the same. There's always that domino effect, and he was the domino where everything kind of fell into place on that offensive side of the ball, which ultimately ended up with 9 of the 11 starters getting some kind of postseason accolade. And oh, by the way, that didn't include Dallas Goedert. So really 10 of 11, because he would have if he didn't get hurt. Just an amazingly talented group. But of that group, especially with the skill position players, he's the best player. He's the best player. And, you know, he can do it in so many different ways, because typically when you have a guy as big as him, you think, oh, well, he's going to be a contested catch guy and he's going to dominate people physically. And he does. And he does all that. But if he's not the best deep ball guy, he's probably, you know, in the top 2 or 3. Obviously, you got to go Tyreek Hill, number 1 when it comes to the deep ball. But he was the best go route receiver in the NFL last season. And to have that dichotomy with somebody of that size, it's very, very rare. You think about Calvin Johnson, you think about DK Metcalf, same kind of version, but he's probably a little bit, I'm not going to go Calvin Johnson. I'm going to put him aside, but I will go DK. He's a better route runner than DK. So, just a great, great player and a great, and the thing about it is, Jody, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, because they were trying to get Calvin Ridley. They were trying to get Christian Kirk. They were trying to get Robert Woods. Yep. They were trying to get Allen Robinson. If they got any of those players, they wouldn't have looked at A.J. Brown.
That's exactly right. Sometimes better to be lucky than good. You know, who's the guy I would comp him to? And again, former player, much like Calvin Johnson, who you threw out there, but a guy I see as a closer comparison. Michael Irvin. Because Irvin had that combination, contested ball, 2 guys go up for it. Guess who's coming down with it? Michael Irvin. But then if you think it's going to be a contested ball and he just goes on you, guess what? He's getting behind you. And A.J. Brown is that same type of player. You look at him and you think he's one thing, and he is, but he's also got another very important facet to his game that he can just flat out beat you if he needs to beat you. So, and Michael Irvin was that type of player. He didn't put up the same numbers A.J. did for a very simple reason. The Cowboys had Emmitt Smith, and they were more dedicated to running the football.
It was a different era where you could do that. And in fact, it was preferable to do that still in that era, especially when you had somebody like Emmitt Smith. But
Right.
I like the comp. I mean, great player, great receiver. Eagles fans don't like him for obvious reasons, but tremendous player. I would say athletically, AJ's a little bit faster. But if you're being comped to Michael Irvin, that's not a bad thing.
No,
that's a very good thing.
And Michael could run. They just didn't ask him to get behind the defense altogether that often. But when they needed to, he made a lot of defensive backs look bad. So you've got your boy A.J. Brown at number 3. I had him at 5. You and I have the exact same top 5 as far as individuals go. In a different order, I had A.J. 5. I had Hassan Reddick at 4. You had Reddick at 5. So we both, and I have today, my number 3 guy is Jason Kelsey. We kind of discussed this yesterday. John and Ed had Jalen Hurts at number 4. Other outlets are going to have Jalen Hurts as number 1 because they do it more in the realistic nature of the National Football League, which is quarterbacks are just more important. If you call it the most important Eagles, then yes, the quarterback is going to be number 1. When your quarterback's as good as Jalen Hurts is coming off the season Jalen Hurts had, yeah, he's going to be number 1. I tried to balance it. John and Ed's list was, we're looking at them within their position, where they rank. Every position is created equal, and that's an absolutely acceptable and a fine way to do it. I didn't want to go as heavy-handed as, well, the quarterback's got to be number 1, and then you figure out everybody thereafter. So I put weight on quarterback because it is quarterback, but not just the quarterback has to be number 1 because it's number 1. So my order is going to be a little different than John. I didn't do it as cut and dry as those guys did. And we'll find out who John's top 2, John and Ed's top 2 are tomorrow. We probably figure it out. The order might be interesting of the two between my guy at number 3, Jason Kelsey, and I've got 2 left to go, one of which, of course, is the quarterback, but we'll do that over the next couple of days. All right, John, I want to have some fun before we punch up our first guest, Scott Grayson from Fox 29 and the host of Props and Locks on Fox 29 when he's not doing his regular sports anchoring gig. Was looking at this today. The odds for the upcoming season. You know, last year I made 2 very specific wagers for the Philadelphia Eagles to beat the Miami Dolphins in the Super Bowl and the Miami Dolphins to beat the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl. And they were both long shots coming into the season, but I thought they both had a legit chance. And I got very inflated odds because of it. I think to start the year, the Eagles were 22-1 to win it all, and the Dolphins were 35-1, somewhere thereabouts. So I got 450-1 for both matchups. It was the same exact thing. Eagles beat the Dolphins, Dolphins beat the Eagles. It was the same payoff, 450-1. So I checked it out again this year, and yeah, I'm in. Yeah, I'm betting on an all-green Super Bowl. Philadelphia Eagles against the New York Jets.
Oh, a Jody Mack Super Bowl.
A Jody Mack Super Bowl, and I'll give you what the odds are going to pay on that. But they put out the odds for the Eagles to win the Super Bowl against most of the AFC teams, excuse me. Not all of the AFC teams. They disparage some AFC teams. They don't even offer a wager of the Philadelphia Eagles, who, of course, are the favorites in the NFC, against 4 of the 16 AFC teams. at least this wagering outlet I looked at, didn't even bother to put out a number. They think so little of the chances of these 4 AFC teams to make the Super Bowl. They didn't even put odds against them for the compete with the Philadelphia Eagles and lose the Super Bowl to the Eagles. I have the odds for the Eagles against all the AFC teams. First of all, who do you think are the 4 teams that they didn't even bother putting odds against?
Houston Texans.
That would be one. Very good, J-Mac.
Yeah. Tennessee Titans.
That would also be one, and that one kind of surprised me. I don't love Tennessee coming into the season either, but they've been a playoff team, a competitive team for the last couple of years. If there's one on this list that I think is at least quasi disrespectful, Tennessee is it. You got 2 more.
The Indianapolis Colts and our old buddy Shane Steichen.
Sorry to say easy for me to say. Sorry to say, Shane Steichen, you are one of the 4 teams that doesn't merit being listed against the Eagles as a possible Super Bowl opponent.
Boy, then I'm struggling with the last one. I'm gonna go Denver Broncos.
The Broncos, they put a number out there for them.
Yeah, yes. I guess because of Peyton and Russell Wilson, that was a bad choice. So they're a little bit overinflated, but I don't think they're a very good team. I'm trying to Las Vegas, I guess.
That would be the 4th and final one. The Josh McDaniels led. So you got Shane Steichen and Josh McDaniels, one guy who was a coach of the Eagles, one who was almost the coach of the Eagles. Raiders don't even merit a number for a potential Super Bowl loss to the Eagles. All right, then give me the AFC in order. The favorite for the Eagles to be facing off against the Super Bowl, and I'll give you what the payoff would be if you had those 2 teams and the Eagles came away victorious.
Well, I would think Kansas City's number 1.
Eagles, Chiefs, correct, number 1, 35-1. If the Eagles and the Chiefs match up again and the Birds win, you get 35-1.
I would think Buffalo would still default to be number 2 at this point.
Bengals would be 3rd. Eagles beat the Bills.
No, I said Buffalo.
You said Buffalo. Buffalo is 3rd. Eagles
Cincinnati's
beat the
good.
Bills 50-1. Eagles,
Cincinnati
Bengals 2nd, correct, 45-1. We have a tie for 4th. Same exact odds either way. See if you can get the 2 4th place squads.
I'm going to go. I'm trying to look at the team. I'm going to go Jets and Ravens.
The Jets are one of the 2 at 80-1. 4th is 80-1. Eagles beat the Jets. That's what I'm in on. And the other one is not the Ravens. They would be 6th. You've got 2 teams that tied for 4th, Jets and someone else, not the Ravens.
Dolphins.
Not the Dolphins. The Dolphins are about tied for 7th.
Maybe they think more of Chargers because of Herbert.
Chargers are tied with the Dolphins for 7th.
Boy, they think more of the AFC North than I do then. Could it be Pittsburgh?
It could not be Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is down the list at about 8th.
What am I missing? Who am I missing? Cleveland? Can't be the Patriots.
Can't be the Patriots. Can't be Cleveland.
I'm trying to think of Jacksonville.
The Jacksonville Jaguars.
That's a bad job I made with Doug.
The Eagles against Dougie P.
I tend to try to forget about the AFC South, but that's the only one.
They are the team to beat in the AFC South. So I'll give you the entire AFC rundown. Eagles beat the Chiefs 35-1. Eagles beat the Bengals 45-1. Eagles beat the Bills 50-1. Eagles beat the Jets 80-1. Has my money on it. Eagles beat the Jaguars. Has a little bit of my money on it. I played that as well, just because I think it'd be a great story. Eagles beat the Ravens 90-1. Tied at 100-1 are the Dolphins and the Chargers. 125-1 is the Browns. Now, see, that one I don't get. that I think the quarterback is just going to revert. Deshaun Watson's going to go back to the best of his Texans years. They're giving the Browns a little bit of love that I don't quite get. 125 to 1. Steelers 150 to 1. Broncos 175 to 1. And the last one ranked, at least they got ranked, the Titans, the Texans, the Raiders, and the Colts didn't get ranked. Bill Belichick's Patriots, 225 to 1, if you believe it. A rematch of a Super Bowl that's already happened twice. It would be the tiebreaker because the Patriots beat the Eagles and then the Eagles beat the Patriots. Could it happen a third time? If it does and the Eagles win, you get 225 to 1 on your money. All right, I saw that this morning. I thought that was fun. I figured we have a little fun with that. Johnny Mac, Jody Mac, here with you on Birds 365. As I mentioned at the top, two good guests. First up is Scott Grayson, sports anchor from Fox 29 and host of their Props and Locks show. A little bit later, Clark Judge of Talk of Fame is going to come on. I always think of Clark as a 49er guy. He hasn't been for years. He's been just a national writer, but he used to be on the 49er beat. And we got a little beef with the 49ers during this offseason. Love to get Clark's still quasi-tied to, but now fairly removed point of view on the 49ers versus the Eagles this year. Will happen in season, and then it could very well happen again in the playoffs, maybe even a championship game rematch. So we got a good one planned for you here on Birds 365. Let's get it rocking and rolling. We'll talk to Scott Grayson of Fox 29 next here on Birds 365.
Do you stream on a Roku?